When I first saw my own name written in blue ink, looping, graceful, perfectly mine, I thought I was losing my mind, because the paper in my hand said, transfer of ownership, and the signature at the bottom was mine, only I had never signed it. It's strange how betrayal rarely arrives with noise. It slips in quietly, through the hum of an old refrigerator, the ticking of a wall clock, the soft voice of someone you thought you could trust. My younger sister, Rachel, had always been the organized one. While I was busy juggling my teaching job and taking care of Mom's medications, she handled the paperwork, the bills, the insurance, the property taxes. It seemed fair, even kind. She lived closer to Mom's house after all. That little 2-story home on Maple Avenue, where we both grew up, where the kitchen still smelled faintly of cinnamon and lemon cleaner. Back then, I believed family meant safety. That belief would cost me more than I could ever imagine. Mom had been slowing down after her mild stroke. Her left hand trembled when she tried to button her cardigan, and sometimes she forgot where she'd placed her glasses. I'd visit every weekend. Sometimes with groceries, sometimes just to sit with her on the porch swing as she told the same stories again and again. Rachel, on the other hand, was always busy. "Work's crazy, sis," she'd text. Or, "Don't worry, I already paid the utilities this month." I didn't think much of it. Rachel worked in real estate. She knew her way around documents and deadlines. I thought she was helping. But little things started to gnaw at me. Mail addressed to the new owner. A letter from the bank that Mom assumed was junk. A subtle nervousness in Rachel's smile whenever I asked how things were going. Still, I brushed it off. Because family doesn't lie. Not about things like that. One chilly afternoon in March, I arrived at Mom's house to find her sitting on the couch, staring at a notice from the county office. Her reading glasses were halfway down her nose, her hands trembling slightly. "Mom, what's this?" I asked, taking the paper. She blinked at me, her brow furrowing. I thought Rachel said she'd handle it." The letter was a confirmation of a property reassignment. Ownership moved from Evelyn Green to Rachel Green, effective immediately. I felt the room tilt. The words didn't make sense at first. It was like reading someone else's nightmare. "Mom, did you sell the house?" She shook her head. "No, of course not. Why would I do that?" Her eyes darted nervously toward the hallway, as if expecting Rachel to walk in and explain. And then I saw it. The copy of the transfer form clipped behind the letter. 2 signatures, Mom's and mine. Only I had never signed anything. I remember sitting at the kitchen table that night, long after Mom went to bed, staring at that paper. The hum of the refrigerator filled the silence. Outside, the wind rattled the porch chime. I compared that signature to my real one a dozen times. Same curve, same tilt, even the little flourish I make when I cross the T. Rachel had mimicked it perfectly. My stomach turned cold. I thought of every conversation we'd had that year. Every reassuring, "Don't worry, sis, I've got this." Every moment I'd trusted her to take care of Mom's affairs. And now, the house, Mom's house, was legally hers. I confronted her the next day. She arrived wearing her usual smile, confident, polished, smelling faintly of vanilla perfume. I didn't waste time. I held up the papers. "What is this, Rachel?" Her smile faltered. "Oh, you found that? You found that? You forged my signature," she sighed, setting her purse on the counter. "It's not what you think, Evelyn. Mom wanted me to handle things. You're always so busy, and I thought—" "Don't you dare," I said, my voice shaking. "Don't you dare make this about helping." She crossed her arms, her expression hardening. "Look, the house needed refinancing. You wouldn't have understood the paperwork. It's under my name now because I took responsibility for the mortgage. That's it. Without telling me? Without telling Mom?" Her eyes flickered. "Mom's memory isn't great these days. I didn't want to confuse her." That sentence, casual, dismissive, made my blood run cold. because beneath it was the truth. She was counting on Mom's confusion, counting on me being too trusting to question it. That night, I barely slept. I pulled every record I could find. Tax statements, insurance letters, even the notary information. Every trail led to Rachel. She had used Mom's declining health and my trust to quietly move the property, drain the savings account, and consolidate assets in her own name. It wasn't just betrayal. It was theft, slow, deliberate, and cruel. But the worst part wasn't losing the house. It was realizing my sister had looked me in the eye, week after week, and lied without a flicker of guilt. By the time I returned to Mom's the next morning, she was humming in the kitchen, making oatmeal like nothing had happened. I sat down beside her, my chest heavy. "Mom," I said softly, "if Rachel ever asks you to sign anything again, promise me you'll call me first." She frowned, stirring the pot. "Of course, dear. But Rachel said everything's already taken care of." I swallowed hard. "Yes," I whispered. "That's what I'm afraid of." Outside, the wind carried the scent of rain. I stared out the window at the yard, where we'd once played as children, where Rachel and I had buried time capsules, built forts, dreamed of growing old side by side. Now, that same ground no longer belonged to us. Not really. And deep down, I knew this wasn't just about paperwork. This was about something darker. Something that had been growing in Rachel long before the forged signature ever touched the page. I used to believe that blood was a bond you could never break. Now I know. It can be a weapon too. After that day, something shifted between Rachel and me. Her voice over the phone sounded different, lighter, almost rehearsed. Whenever I stopped by Mom's, I'd find that Rachel had already been there. Fresh groceries, new curtains, a brand new flat screen mounted on the wall that Mom didn't remember buying. "Rachel said it was on sale," Mom would explain, smiling faintly. "She's such a good girl." I'd force a smile too, but inside every word twisted like a knife. I tried to reason with myself. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe there was a simple explanation. But the truth has a way of tugging at the corners of your peace until it all comes undone. It was late April when I noticed the first real crack. A small thing. The family photo on Mom's living room shelf. The one from my 30th birthday. The frame had been replaced, a fancy silver one. But when I picked it up, I realized something chilling. The photo inside wasn't the original. In the old picture, I was sitting next to Mom, and Rachel was standing behind us, her arm around both our shoulders. In this one, it was just Rachel and Mom, me, gone. "Mom," I asked quietly, "where's the old photo?" She blinked, confused. "What do you mean, honey? That's the one we've always had." My throat went dry. "No, Mom. The one where I'm in it, too." She frowned, clearly struggling to remember. "Oh, maybe Rachel changed it. She said the old one was faded." Faded, that was the word she used. But it wasn't the photo that was fading. It was me. That night, I couldn't shake the feeling that Rachel wasn't just after the house or the money. She was rewriting the story of our family, one careful edit at a time. I started digging, quietly, methodically. I requested copies of the title transfer from the county office. I asked a friend in banking to trace activity on Mom's joint account, the one Rachel and I were supposed to manage together. Within a week, the truth crawled into the light. Rachel had moved almost all of Mom's savings into a maintenance fund, under her own name. The justification? For property upkeep and medical expenses. But there were withdrawals, large ones, from casinos, boutiques, and a new car dealership. The numbers blurred on the screen as I read them. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was greed, cold, careful, and calculated. The next weekend, Rachel invited me over to talk. Her voice was sweet, too sweet. "I think we've had a misunderstanding," she said. Come over. Let's clear the air. I almost didn't go, but I needed to see her face when I told her I knew. When I arrived, her home smelled like jasmine and lemon polish. Everything was immaculate, the kind of perfection that made me uneasy. She greeted me with a hug that felt rehearsed. "Tea?" she asked. "No," I said. "Let's not pretend." Her eyes flickered. "All right then. What's this about? You stole Mom's savings. You forged my signature. You took her house. And for what? A car? A bigger TV?" She set the teapot down, too gently. Then she smiled, not kindly, not nervously, but the way a cat does before it plays with its prey. "Oh, Evelyn," she sighed. "You've always thought you knew better. You think because you visit Mom and buy her groceries, you're the saint in the family. But where were you when she fell behind on her taxes? When the roof leaked? When the bills piled up?" Her voice sharpened. "I fixed it. I made sure Mom didn't lose everything. I took care of things while you were busy feeling good about yourself. That doesn't give you the right to steal," I snapped. Her expression hardened. "You call it stealing. I call it survival." There it was. The truth. Stripped bare. Rachel wasn't sorry. She believed she deserved it. I left her house shaking, my chest burning with anger and disbelief. By the time I got to my car, I was trembling. I sat there for nearly an hour, the rain tapping against the windshield like a metronome to my fury. She had built a story where I was the selfish one, and she was the savior, and somehow she believed it. Was the savior, and somehow she believed it. That night I realized this wasn't just a family disagreement. It was a war, quiet, polite, and devastating. And I was done being quiet. Over the next few weeks, I gathered everything. Bank statements, emails, screenshots, copies of Mom's medical notes, every piece of proof I could find that Rachel had manipulated Mom's memory, and my trust, to seize control. Still, a small part of me hoped she'd stop, that maybe once she saw how far she'd gone, she'd undo it. But people drunk on power rarely sober up willingly. Rachel doubled down, transferring more money, selling furniture, even convincing Mom to update her will. I saw the new document. It named Rachel as the sole beneficiary. That was the moment something inside me broke. Quietly, completely. I wasn't just fighting for a house anymore. I was fighting for the truth. So I called a lawyer. He was an older man, kind eyes behind thick glasses. After I laid out everything, he sighed. "This is serious," he said. "If your sister forged legal documents, that's criminal. But we'll need to prove it, with precision. No emotion, no assumption. Just facts." I nodded, clutching the folder in my lap. "I have the facts." He gave a small smile. "Then let's begin." That night, as I drove home, I passed Mom's house. The porch light glowing softly, the curtains drawn. Inside, I could see her silhouette moving slowly past the window. I wondered if she had any idea what her daughters were becoming. One a liar, the other a detective. I wanted to protect her from the truth, but the truth had already taken root in our home. And I knew that if I didn't stop Rachel soon, there'd be nothing left to protect. The morning I decided to expose Rachel, the air felt heavy, like the world itself knew something irreversible was about to happen. I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee gone cold. The legal papers spread out before me like scars. The lawyer had told me to stay calm, to be methodical. But calm isn't easy when betrayal has your sister's face. I thought about Mom, her gentle laugh, the way she'd stroke our hair when we were girls and whisper, "You'll always have each other." I almost laughed, if only she knew. 2 weeks later, the first court notice went out. Rachel called me that same evening. Her voice was trembling, but not with fear, with rage. "How dare you drag this into court?" she hissed. "I asked you to talk to me, Rachel. You lied. You forged documents." "I did what I had to," she snapped. "You have no idea how much Mom owes. You wouldn't last a day in my shoes." My jaw tightened. "Then why didn't you tell me? Why lie? Because you would have stopped me, she said simply. And that was it. The sentence that burned itself into my chest. Because you would have stopped me. Not because she regretted it. Not because it was wrong, but because I stood in her way. The following week, I met with Mom and our lawyer together. I wanted her to hear everything. The bank transfers, the fake signatures, the property change. Mom sat quietly on the couch as we went through the evidence. Her hands shook. She kept asking for tea, for water, for anything to fill the silence that grew heavier by the minute. When I showed her the document, the forged sale agreement with my falsified signature, her lips parted in disbelief. Her voice was small. "Rachel, did this?" I nodded. She pressed a trembling hand to her chest. "No, my Rachel wouldn't do that. She's just stressed. You know how she gets." I swallowed hard. "Mom, look at the dates. Look at her handwriting." Her eyes followed the words on the page. Slowly, painfully, until they filled with tears. "She told me you didn't want the house. That you said I should transfer it." "I would never say that," I whispered. She nodded faintly, her voice cracking. "I know that now." And then she broke, quietly, like something fragile being set down too hard. Rachel stormed into the house later that evening. The door slammed so hard the picture frames rattled. "You had no right," she shouted the moment she saw me. Mom flinched. I stood still. "I had every right," I said, keeping my voice low. "You stole from your own mother. You forged my name. You lied to both of us." Her eyes darted to Mom, then back to me. "I saved her. You don't understand. The taxes were overdue. The roof needed fixing." "Then why the casino receipts, Rachel? Why the car in your name? Why the withdrawals?" Her mouth opened, then closed. For a moment I saw something flicker in her eyes. Guilt, maybe, but it vanished as quickly as it came. "I deserve something too," she said finally. "You always got everything. The attention, the career, the nice husband. I stayed here. I took care of Mom. This house should be mine." The words hit me harder than I expected, because underneath the greed was something older. Something that had been festering for years. Jealousy. Resentment. The invisible crack between us finally breaking open. Mom stood then, her frail voice trembling. "Enough. Both of you." Rachel froze. Mom turned to her, eyes red but steady. "I loved you both the same," she said softly. "But what you've done, Rachel, it's not love. It's cruelty." Rachel's lip quivered. "Mom, no," Mom said, firmer this time. "You lied to me. To your sister. You took what wasn't yours and made me part of your sin." Rachel stared at her, and for the first time I saw fear, not of punishment, but of rejection. Mom's voice broke. "You've turned my home into a battlefield." And with that, she sank into the chair, tears streaming down her cheeks. Rachel stood motionless. Her mouth trembled, but no words came. Then she turned and walked out, silent, pale, her heels clicking like echoes of regret. The door closed behind her, and for a long time there was nothing but the sound of Mom's quiet sobbing and the clock ticking on the wall. That night I couldn't sleep. Even after everything, my heart ached for her. For the sister I used to know, the one who would braid my hair before school, who shared her last piece of candy, who cried with me when Dad died. But that sister was gone, replaced by someone I didn't recognize. In the morning, I checked my phone. There were 20 missed calls from Rachel, and a text that simply read, "You'll regret this. You have no idea what you've started." I stared at it for a long time. Then I took a deep breath, deleted it, and forwarded it to my lawyer. The war had begun, and I wasn't backing down. The courtroom smelled faintly of old wood polish and coffee that had been reheated one too many times. Mother sat beside me, her thin fingers folded neatly in her lap, her wedding ring now hanging loose on her fragile hand. Across the aisle sat Layla, my sister. Her hair pulled into a perfect bun, her face painted in calm defiance. It struck me then how much she looked like a stranger. The same woman who used to cry when she burned toast was now whispering instructions to her lawyer with the ease of someone who had planned this for months. When the judge began, my chest tightened. The evidence was laid bare. The forged signatures, the bank transfers, the false affidavit claiming that our mother had gifted her the property. Every word felt like a hammer blow. Her lawyer argued that Mother had only wanted to secure Layla's future. But when the judge asked Mother to speak, she rose slowly, her voice trembling, yet steady enough to slice through the silence. "I raised both my daughters with love," she said softly, "but love should never be mistaken as permission to steal." Layla's head lowered for the first time. I watched her jaw tremble, the same way it used to when she was a child caught lying about homework. For a moment I thought she might apologize. Instead, she leaned toward her lawyer, whispered something, and looked away. The judge ruled in our favor. The house would be restored to Mother's name, and Layla would face charges for forgery and fraud. It should have felt like victory. But it didn't. When the gavel struck, it sounded less like justice and more like something breaking inside me. All the shared laughter, the late-night secrets, the promises we made under the same roof. Gone. Outside the courthouse, reporters murmured, and people stared. Mother leaned on me and whispered, "Don't let this harden you, my dear. Losing trust is pain enough. Don't lose your softness, too." That night, Layla called me. Her voice was small, raw. "I never meant to hurt you," she said quietly. "I just wanted to feel safe. You always had everything together. I didn't. I didn't know what to say." There was a long silence, the kind that fills the air when love and betrayal meet and don't know how to coexist. "You could have just asked, Layla," I said softly. "You didn't have to take everything." She began to cry. Quiet, broken sobs that made me feel both angry and sorry all at once. I hung up before I could change my mind and forgive her too soon. A month later, Mother and I packed what little we had left and moved into a small, sunlit apartment. It wasn't the grand home she once owned, but it was peaceful. We planted jasmine near the window, and sometimes when the evening breeze carried its scent inside, Mother would smile and say, "Peace smells like this." Layla didn't come around anymore. The court had sentenced her to community service and restitution. But the real punishment was the silence that followed. The empty seat at family dinners, the birthdays unacknowledged, the voice missing from every memory. And yet, some nights, I'd still catch myself wondering if she kept that old photo of us. The one where we were children, covered in mud, laughing like the world was ours. Mud, laughing like the world was ours. The first few weeks in the new apartment were quiet. Almost too quiet. The kind of silence that makes you notice small things, like the ticking of a clock, the hum of the refrigerator, or the soft creak of Mother's chair as she rocked by the window. We had lost so much, and yet somehow, I felt lighter. No more pretending, no more waiting for the next lie to fall apart. Just the truth, raw, simple, and painful, but ours. Every morning I'd make tea for Mother. She liked it strong, with a bit of cardamom. Just the way Father used to. Sometimes she'd hum old songs while I watered the tiny balcony plants, and for a moment life felt good again. But healing isn't a straight line. Some nights, I'd dream of the house. The wide staircase, the blue front door, the laughter that used to echo in the hallway. And then I'd see Layla standing there, smiling, like nothing had ever happened. I'd wake up angry, then guilty for feeling angry, because despite everything, she was still my sister. One afternoon, when I came home from work, I found a small envelope wedged under our door. Inside was a photo. That photo, the one from our childhood, 2 little girls covered in mud, missing teeth, grinning from ear to ear. Behind it, Layla had written a single line. "I'm sorry. I hope one day you'll remember me like this again." Tears blurred the ink, but I couldn't stop reading that line over and over. Mother said softly, "Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, my dear. It just means you refuse to let bitterness own you." So I put that photo on our fridge. Not as a sign of reconciliation, but as a reminder that love can be stolen, broken, and buried, but it can also survive, quietly, in the corners of who we once were. Months passed. Mother's health slowly improved, and I started volunteering at a women's shelter, helping others who had faced financial betrayal or abuse. For the first time, I felt like my pain had a purpose. When people asked how I stayed calm, I'd smile and say, "Because I learned that sometimes losing everything is how you find what's real." If you've ever been betrayed by someone you love, you know forgiveness doesn't come easy. It's not about saying, "It's okay." It's about saying, "You no longer have the power to hurt me." I still don't know if Layla and I will ever find our way back, but I do know this. My peace is no longer hers to take. Tell me, would you have forgiven your sister if she did what Layla did to me? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your heart. And if stories like this speak to you, make sure to subscribe for more true, emotional stories every day.